they tried multiple different avenues of destroying Biden's electoral college majority, and we're going to go through all of them. But it ended up with an effort to get Vice President Pence to step outside of his constitutional role and to declare unprecedented, unilateral, extra-constitutional, unlawful powers to reject electoral college votes by the vice president. And if they could just get him to reject the electoral votes being cast by tens of millions of people in Arizona, Georgia, and Pennsylvania, then they could lower Biden's vote total from 306 to below 270. At that point, it would have kicked the whole contest into a so-called contingent election under the 12th Amendment. And people ask me, well, why would they want the House of Representatives deciding for president with Speaker Pelosi and the Democrats in control? Well, they knew that in a contingent election, we're not voting on the basis of one member, one vote. We're voting on the basis of one state, one vote. Right. And after the 2020 elections, they had 27 state delegations. We have 22. Pennsylvania split down the middle, 9-9 would be to the side. So even had they lost the at-large representative for Wyoming, Liz Cheney, they still would have had a 26-22 or 23 majority, and they would have declared Donald Trump president for 4 years, likely would have followed the advice of Trump's disgraced former national security advisor, Michael Flynn, and invoked martial law by triggering the Insurrection Act. Then they would have called in the National Guard and the police to put down the violent insurrection that Trump had unleashed against us, and then blame the whole thing on Antifa, which, of course, Matt Gaetz started to do on January the 6th itself. When we came back in, he said that, the Washington Times had already been able to determine from facial recognition technology that it was Antifa that was actually behind the attack. And you can still read that today on the right-wing websites. But in any event, they would have plunged us into chaos, likely martial law, perhaps civil war, riots around the country. And as Judge Carter put it in the John Eastman case, Trump likely committed crimes in the process. And had he succeeded, it could have been the last time we ever had a peaceful transfer of power in America.
And do you agree with the judge's assessment there?
Well, I do. I mean, who knows where it would have gone? Some of our colleagues on the GOP side are fond of saying, well, you're not just going to trifle with the rights of tens of millions of people who voted for Trump, whose rights have been completely respected, of course. But you're certainly not going to be able to trifle with the rights of tens of millions of people who voted for Biden, who are standing by the constitutional order. Let us hope that the violence unleashed by the right wing on January 6th ends there. But any further violent attacks on the union could create a spiral, because people are prepared to defend their democracy. And we're very fortunate that civil violence, widespread civil violence, didn't break out across the country after their efforts to steal the election.